Guys, I sent you a list of questions. And you can either do these questions as I'm talking or after we finish the conversation. We're doing Pasha. We did Sunday night if I bring it. Today we're doing Pasha. Okay, now I prepared an intense class. I hope it's not too intense, but I prepared an intense class. Why? Because I'm an intense man, as you may all know by now. Last week was two Pashas together. This week is two Pashas together, Achrei Kedoshim. And then the week after next is again two Pashas together, which is, of course, V'hara Mechukosen. The reason, of course, is because the Chazal arranged that, Mayor, give me a minute, okay? The Chazal arranged that we should finish the Torah in a year. There's an opinion that says we finish the Torah in 3 years. The halacha is, in Reiv Kehilas, most people, most of the time, we try to finish the Torah in a year. But we try to finish the Torah in an exact year, which means you finish Simchas Torah and you start Shabbos Bereshis. So to accommodate this, there are all kinds of built-in constants. For example, before Rosh Hashanah, we always read Nitzavim. Before Shavuos, we always read Bamidbar, sometimes Naseh. The Shabbos before Tisha B'Av or the Shabbos of Tisha B'Av is always Dvarim. The Shabbos after Tisha B'Av is always V'aschana. So they built in these constants. And of course, this creates a problem. There's a regular year and a leap year. So if Bamidbar always has to be before Shavuos, and Pesach time you're holding V'Yakov Pkudei, there's too many Pashas, not enough weeks. So it turns out that Vayikra gets crunched, so that we should always have the constants that are arranged. Right? It says in Chazal that Shavuos is called the Rosh Hashanah. So before the Rosh Hashanah of regular, we have the Teichecha of Pashas Kisaveh, and then we have a buffer of 1 week, which is Nitzavim or Nitzavim Vayelech. And Shavuos is also called Rosh Hashanah. Before Rosh Hashanah, we have the Teichecha of Bechukoisai, and then we have a buffer, which is Pashas Bamidbar, and sometimes two Pashas Naseh. By the way, I just want to say something. This is part of my therapy, okay? I'm screaming, and there's no good reason for why I'm screaming. I can talk softly, and you can all hear me. We're not in the Zal. It's not a large room. I find myself screaming. Every class I'm screaming. It's like I'm trying to get my voice all the way to Florida or California or England or wherever you are. Anyway, I tell myself to stop screaming, and within 5 minutes I'm screaming again. But let me see if I cannot scream. This is my small little avoida at the moment. So therefore, the Pashas of Vayikra are doubled up. Now it helps a little bit that by and large, the Pashas of Vayikra are short. Kedoshim is very short, it's only 64 psukim. 67 psukim. Tazriya is also short. It's 64 psukim. Etzedo is a little bit longer. It's 90 psukim. Bahar is like the fourth shortest parsha in the whole Chumash. It's like 47 or 48 psukim. So it's easy to double up. You know, imagine you had these two doozy parshas like Vayakov Kudei or Matas Masei. These are Balkaida nightmares because they're very long and nevertheless they're doubled up. Like I told you before, we double up Matas Masei so the Dvarim should always be the Shabbos before or the Shabbos of Tisha B'Av. It's one of those things, it's built into the design of the yearly cycle of Kriyas HaTorah. So this week is two parshas again, Achrei Ma'is and Kedosh. So they're interesting parshas, Achrei Ma'is and Kedosh. It starts off talking about Yom Kippur, which is like the holiest thing. And the rest of it talks about some pretty bad stuff, you know, Avodah Zarah, Gilei Arayos, Chutei Chutz, bringing karbanos outside the Beis Hamikdash, which is a terrible infraction. So, I am not discussing Yom Kippur at all. I'm skipping it. I'm discussing Achrei Kedoshim minus, I guess it's still Shlishi, whatever it is. We're not discussing Yom Kippur. Okay, now if you have the questions, I'm pretty much going to go through the questions. I'm hoping to make this into a class. I don't want to answer questions. I want to discourse. I want to dialogue. I want to lecture. But I'm going to do it in the sequence of the question that I asked. My first question is, what are the names of Kedoshim and Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim conjure up that is constant? And I wrote in parenthesis, see the end of Parshas Shmini. Achrei Moshe means after the death of Nadav and Avihu. Why did Nadav and Avihu die? Because they went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So, what's the big deal? You know, the famous Gemara that later on, faxes, Shu Olim Holchu Boy, faxes walked to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, nobody died. So what is it the big deal? Why did Nadav and Avihu die? And of course, the answer that's so important, I apologize. The answer that's so important is if you're a Jew, there's a higher standard. You know, Ani Hashem Elokecha Mamala Escha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. That's the end of Parshas Shmini. You're different than everybody else. You're held to a different standard. There is an expectation upon you that's different. Like I explained to you last week, all of Sefer Vayikra is about holiness and about purity. And in Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim, the holiness and the purity takes on the negative side. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do this. And the beginning of it is Achrei Moshe. If you're a Jew and you're not careful, Chas v'Shalom, this misa. Nadav and Avihu were the holiest of the holies. Because they were the holiest of the holies, they were held to the highest standard. And because they were held to the highest standard, there was a phenomenon of misa. And the Torah says Acharei Moshe, after the death. And of course, the connotation of the Torah in saying the words Acharei Moshe is like Rashi says, learn the lesson. We're Jews. We don't have 7 mitzvahs. We have 613. We're Jews. We don't have mitzvahs. They're going to make us ethical, good people, like it says in Chazal, that the mitzvahs of the Bnei Neach are Leila Tehu Bara Ola Sheves Yitzara, that the world shouldn't be chaotic, it should be orderly. The mitzvahs of the Jewish people is Anshe Kodesh. We're a holy people. And that's what Achrei Moshe says. Because of who Nadav and Avihu were, that's why there was Misa. And of course, the name of Parshas Kedoshim is Kedoshim, be holy. So Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim both are saying the same thing. One is saying it negatively and indirectly, and one is saying it positively and directly. There's a different expectation of you. An expectation of holiness, and there's, of course, risk involved. You know, you have by Esav HaRasha, remember that story? Esav murders Nimrod, kills his first person, comes running into the house famished, and he asks Yaakov to feed him. So Yaakov says to him, tell me the firstborn rights. So Esav says, tell me about these firstborn rights. What are my rights? He says, well, you're going to be working in the Beis HaMikdash. And if you're not careful, Hazara Kar of Yumas, if you go in when you're tummy, the wrong person goes in, wrong time, wrong place, wrong room, you're going to die. So Esav says, it's going to kill me, this holiness. I don't need it. I don't want it. This is going to bring to me death. I don't want it. And Yaakov prefers it. Yaakov said, I'll take it. I'll take the blessing. I'll take the increased closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I'll take the liability. I'll take the risk. And in Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim, so much of that risk is presented. What is expected of a Jew? How is a Jew expected to behave? And the standard, which separates a Jew from a non-Jew, is very firmly established in these two parashas. Now, today's Tuesday, which means a little early in the week. But if you learn Chitas, you're going to walk away at the end of this week and ask yourself a simple question. Hey, so many of the ideas in Parshas Achrei are repeated again in Parshas Kedoshim. For example, Avodah Zarah is repeated twice. Moilech is repeated twice. And of course, the most obvious repetition, you have a whole section in Parshas Achrei, which is repeated a second time in Parshas Kedoshim. All the laws of Gilei Arayos, all the laws of intimacy that the Torah establishes are in these parshas. It's the whole thing is in Parshas Achrei, and the whole thing is repeated again in Parshas Kedoshim. And if you don't pay attention, it seems to you the Torah is repeating itself twice, 2 weeks in a row. But when you have the two parshas together, it's twice in the same chitas, and you wonder what is the reason all of the Gilei Arayos are repeated twice. I just want to say something about Gilei Arayos. There's two basic categories of Gilei Arayos. One is called she'er. She'er means a relative. There's Gilei Arois with she'ed, like a brother and a sister, an aunt, and things of this sort. And then there are Gilei Arois which are not she'ed, not relatives, like a married woman and things of this sort. So in Gilei Arois, there's two basic classes. This is just general information. There is she'ed and not she'ed, and in many cases, or in some cases, there are differences between the halachas of Gilei Arois of she'ed and not she'ed. Now, why is it again? Why do you have the same lavim, the same warnings? Don't do this or else because you're holy. Repeat it twice. And there's a real good answer. That's a halachic answer. That for some reason, every year when I get these two parshas, it compels me to talk about it. And that is, there's two Hebrew words. Now, if you have your sheets handy, they're questions 4 and 5. Okay? There's a word azhara and there's a word oynish. Azhara means a warning. Oynish means a punishment. Azhara means a lav. You're not allowed to do this. Oynish means this is the punishment for doing it. Now, here's the rule. There's mitzvah saseh and there's mitzvah saseh, right? If a person is over in a mitzvah saseh, there's no punishment. If a person misses Rachmon Litzal, Tfil, Mezuzah, a person misses a mitzvah, is no oynish. With two exceptions. There's two mitzvahs saseh for which there is an oynish, bris milah and korban pesach, and the oynish is very severe. The oynish is actually kodesh. Any mitzvahs leisaseh, what's called a lav, a negative commandment, has malchus. You get flogged, with certain exceptions. It has to be a lav sheyesh b'maiseh. It's not allowed to be a lav hanitek la'aseh. If it's not a lav hanitek la'aseh, you fix it and you're not getting oynish. Or it's not a lav sheyesh b'maiseh, with one exception of magadef, I think. There's malchus. And the Torah doesn't have to tell you. If there's a lav, if you were over in a lav, you can assume you get malchus. But when it comes to misa, when it comes to death, the Torah tells you you're not allowed to do it, and has to say a second time, and if you do it, you'll get punished. And that's the meaning of the Hebrew word azhara, and the meaning of the Hebrew word oynesh. Question 4 and 5. Azhara means you're not allowed to do it. And in the word azhara is implicit, is indicative. If you'll do it, you'll get malchus. That's the meaning of azhara. If you'll do it, you're going to get flogged. Then the Torah says a second time, in this case, if you do it, you're not only going to get malchus, you're going to get misa, whether it's kodesh or misa b'dei shamayim or misa's bezdin. Now, of course, the rule is you never get two punishments, right? You guys learned this in school. Kim leiber derabba mineh. You don't get malchus and misa, but the way the Torah is structured, they're two separate things. If you do an aveda, in other words, a negative commandment, and it's yesh b'maiseh, and it's not nitek la'aseh, you get malchus. If it's an aveda which has an oynish mavis, you get oynish mavis. Now, really, you should get malchus also, but you don't give. There's no double jeopardy, as they say in American. So you don't get the malchus, you only get the oynish misa. And there's nafkaminas la'alocha b'negei shegeg. I'm not getting into the prati adover. Okay, so this is what's happening in Pashas Acharei. It tells you a lot of things you're not allowed to do. In Pashas Kedoshim, it repeats a second time and says, and if you do it, you're going to get punished. And that really will help you see the pattern of the chitas. When Acharei Mos and Kedoshim come together, you will see in 1 week, in 7 days, you're going to repeat twice the halachas of Meilach, the halachas of Avodah Zarah, some of the halachas of Shchutei Chutz and Pigul and eating blood. Repeat it twice. And the same, of course, most significantly of all, the halachas of Gilei Arois. It's a whole parsha. Because every one of these lavim has a more severe oynish than malchus. And anytime a lav has a more severe oynish than malchus, the Torah has to do it separately. Azhara and oynish. And if you're familiar with the Gemara, if you know how the Gemara works, the Gemara will often say, Shma mina oynish azhara minayin. That if the Torah finds an aveda, for which the punishment is death, the Gemara will say, where else has the Torah warned us? Because it's a rule that all oinshim, all punishment, where the consequence is chas v'shalom heipach hachayim, it has to say twice. It has to. One says, don't do it, and the other is, if you do it, there's going to be a consequence. Okay? And this is why in Pashas Achrei and Kedoshim, which are often together, you have the same inyanim twice because it's actually two different things. It's called azhara, don't do it, and einish. This is the consequence of doing it. Now, why? What is the reason you have to have azhara and einish separately? So, apinigla, the answer is because that's what they established. If there's an aveda, there's malchus. If there's going to be misa, there's going to have to be a separate warning. Okay? And if you only have it once, you cannot have a einish misa, it has to be dafka twice. That's the nigla, okay? But what is the chasidus? I should say the Musar. I don't want to say Hasidus. I didn't see this in a Maimed. I'm making this up, so I don't want to blame it on any Rebbe. What is the Hasidus? Why does it have to be repeated twice? And there's a very, very good answer, which I think is very, very important. And of course, you can angle it in different ways. You can approach it in different ways. The answer is, Rabbi say, we are Jews, not so we shouldn't get punished. Being a person who's frum, and the entire motivation for his frumkeit is, quote, he doesn't want to go to Gehenna, that's not a Jew. It's certainly not a Jew who has a connection to Hasidus. After all, we serve Hashem. Now, a lot of us are afraid of Gehenna, and at least some of us, it helps to know that if you do a bad thing, there's going to be a punishment. You don't want to get punished, you're afraid, you're paranoid, so you stay a little frumer. But we are not frum. We're not careful about mitzvahs because we're afraid that Hashem is going to punch us in the nose. We keep Torah mitzvahs because we're supposed to be a holy people. And yes, there are different standards for a Yid and for a non-Yid. And like I told you, this is especially pronounced in Sefer Vayikra, which is all about Kedusha and it's all about Tahara. And like I said, Achrei Ma'is and Kedoshim are giving us the negative side of Kedusha and Tahara. If you're going to be pure and holy, don't do this and don't do this and don't do this, including the various standards of Gili Arayis and the various standards of Avodah Zarah and the various standards of bringing Karbonis. Karbonis, the Rambam says, is an answer to Avodah Zarah, and therefore the preciseness of bringing Karbonis is the opposite, is offsetting Avodah Zarah. So you have to be very, very careful about it. The reason these ideas are twice is first Hashem says, don't do this because it's wrong. Separately, the Eibusha says, don't do it because it's wrong because you're going to be punished. Because the Torah wants us to know, don't do it because it's wrong is an end. Yidden are holy. There's an expectation. The Pasuk says, Va'anshe kodesh tihi yunli. You're expected to be a holy people. Holy means remove, different. And therefore there's more standards of precision in Yiddishkeit when it comes to all areas of life, you know. What's the big three? What are the big three? The big three are kina, taiva, v'akovid. Jealousy, lust, and honor. Kina, taiva, and kovid. Jealousy is hate, don't kill. Taiva, lust, is immorality, gilerayas, and looking good is Avodah Zarah. Those are the three big Avedas. These three big Avedas apply to a Yid different than to a non-Yid because we're supposed to be holy. So if everything has to be told twice. Don't do this because you're a Jew. And if you do this, there's going to be a consequence. There's going to be an einish. Okay, this is really, I think, a real concise way to get at the heart. When you look at the Achrei Ma'is and Kedoshim, especially Kedoshim, which is a short parasha, I think it's 67 psukim, or 64 psukim, it talks about tons of things. There's so many things in Parashat Kedoshim, of all different types, including don't steal and don't cheat and don't lie. V'ahavta l'reach kamaycha is also in Kedoshim. When you add it all up, what Parashat Kedoshim is telling you, it's not enough for a Jew to be a good person, a Jew has to be a holy person, and these things determine holiness. In other words, there's a difference between how a Yid is careful about these things and a non-Yid is careful about these things. And again, one of the aspects is, it's kind of sad to imagine a Yid whose whole frumkeit is doesn't want to get punished, or he wants to get a reward. A Yid is Yid because he's a Yid. The Rambam says, you do the truth because it's true. There's a great reward, but your life is not defined by reward and punishment. The Rambam asks the question in the Hagdama of Perek Chelik, Is the mitzvah more important or the reward more important? Is the reward more important? Is the Aveda more important or the punishment for the Aveda? If a person thinks about reward and punishment, Torah mitzvahs isn't important. It's Gehenim and Gan Eden, and it's kind of sad, or sad without a kinda. The way it's supposed to be is first you have Azhara, a Yid is told how to live, and then separately you have Einish. However you explain Einish, whether Einish is considered a deterrent, as they say in American, or Einish considered the kapara, which is a deeper inyan, which I'm dafkin not getting into. But I think what I just shared, if you'll think about Chitas of this week, gives you a sense of the wholeness of these two parashas, Achrei Mois and Kedoshim. Okay? Now, I am now going to just finish. I'm going to read questions 9 and 10 and 11 and give you the answers. I didn't give you the answers. Well, I really went over the sheet. So after the class, you're going to go into one of these rooms, as they're called, and you should answer the sheet. I'm giving you a class, but in the class, I'm really following the design of my sheet. But the last 3 questions, I actually want to answer them specifically because they're not part of the lecture. They're just details in context. Question 9, how is this similar to Avodah Zarah? How is Avodah Zarah consistent with Gili Aroyas? And the answer is Gili Aroyas means that you have more than one loyalty, right? A person gets married, what do they announce by all the chuppahs? To the exclusion of all others. They announce to the exclusion of all others about the Edis, but they should really announce to the exclusion of all others about the Chas and Kala. A Chas marries a Kala, that's it. A Kala marries a Chas, that's it. One connection. Can't split this. And if you split this, it's not the pshat, you're half here and half here. You're in no place at all. That's why Gil Aroyas is such a sad, besides for being a sin, it's sad because it means there's no intimacy, there's no connection between two people. How is this similar to Avodah Zarah? What is Avodah Zarah? That you're married to more than one God. Avodah Zarah and Gil Aroyas is exactly the same thing, except Gil Aroyas is between a person and a person. Avodah Zarah is between a person and God. That's why they come together and repeat it twice in Acharei and again in Kedoshim, because that's exactly what Avodah Zarah is. We have a relationship with Hashem, quote, to the exclusion of all others. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. It doesn't only mean there's one God, it's I have one God. And that's it. When you start to split your loyalty, God and my banker, God and my boss, God and my favorite sports hero, that's Avodah Zarah. That's not Chas Hashem, you're going to be punished, but you get the point. A Yid has one loyalty. And just like you have one loyalty to your wife, and there's only one, because that's what makes a man and a woman one, in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have only one loyalty. Okay, question 10. This is important to me, guys, okay? Question 10 is important to me, and question 11, by the way, I'm not going to answer. Question 10 is, what is the meaning of Chukei Lo Yitelechu? You shouldn't go in the Chukei Hagoyim. Just 1 second, I want to get my Chumash. I want to tell you where this pasuk is. Chukei Lo Yitelechu is in Chukei Lo Yitelechu is in today's Chitas, Tuesday of Pashas Acharei Kedoshim. It's in Acharei Kapitel Yotches, Pasuk Gimel. I want to read the Rashi. Okay, I want to read the Rashi. If you're going to listen to any of my class, listen to this part. Okay. You're not allowed to go in Chukes Hagoyim. There's a lot of sugis in Shas explaining many things that are called Chukes Hagoyim, customs, etiquette, nimus, culture of Goyim, that because Goyim do it, Yidden are not allowed to do it. Says Rashi, Mahi niach hakosuf. What does the pasuk leave out? Shaloi Omar, that has not been said in the words before, that you have to say you're not allowed to go in the Chukes Hagoyim. Says Rashi, Ella, the answer is, and carefully, Elu nimusay shalahem. This is their nimus, their culture. There's a lav d'oraisa of following Goyish culture. Dvarim achakukim lahem, things that are very important to them. Kegoyin, for example, tartiyois. Tartiyois means theaters. V'atadiyois, which means stadiums. You hear? It's a lav d'oraisa to imitate goyim's tartiyois, which means houses of theater, and Atstadiois, which means stadiums, sports stadiums, like the Colosseum in Rome. And Rav Meir says, Elu Darkei Amoyim Shemanacham. This includes all the Darkei Amoyim list. Rabbi say, the answer to a Chokreiset Leicha doesn't mean how to worship idols. It means things in which a goy is fakocht, a yid is not allowed to be fakocht. And goyim are fakocht in entertainment, and goyim are fakocht in sport. Tartiois means entertainment, and atstadiois means sport. Okay? So the answer to question 10 is, what is the meaning of V'chukeseim leitelechu? Atstadiois and tartiois. Now, here comes question 11. And question 11 I am not going to answer. I'd like you to answer. Do you think Western American Jews are aware and sensitive to this lav and its spirit? American Jews. Very frum, right? Glad kosher, Kol Yisrael, bish, the whole thing. Are we sensitive to this lav of V'chukeseim leitelechu? And if we aren't, why not? So question 11 is really your own thought. I'm asking you to give me your opinion about culturally, all of us, collectively, how we deal with this explicit lav, which Rashi brings in Chumash, of theaters and sports arenas, what do they call them? Stadiums, which the Rashi says is allowed the halacha as well. Okay? Go ahead, Meir, go ahead.
I got all the questions. I didn't get question 2.
Good.
When you went. I got 1, 3, and the rest of them.
Yeah, because 2 I didn't answer. 2 I didn't answer. I'm going to ask you a favor. Go to the end of Acharei. I'm going to see if you can figure it out. How does the end of Acharei support the idea of holiness by a Jew? I'll tell you exactly where it is. Pasuk Chav Dalet and Pasuk Chav Hey and Pasuk Chav Dalet, Chav Hey, Chav Ches, and Chav Tes. See if you can figure out where in these psukim you have the proof that the Eibishter has a different standard for Yidden than for Yidden Goyim. I'm so happy, Meir, because you're right. I was going to say, I answered every question in my speech.
I thought I wasn't paying attention tonight.
Pardon me?
I thought I wasn't paying attention tonight. I'm like, what? Did I miss that?
No, I didn't say it. I also didn't answer 11. 11, I want to hear your opinion. I don't want you to give me a yes man answer. I want you to give me your opinion. Okay? So if you can figure it out, you can't, I'll tell you.
Question 11, you said, and its spirit at the end. What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think I mean?
That's why I'm asking.
No, I want you to tell me how you understand it. I don't want you to... Question 11...
I don't understand the question.
I'm asking you, are we sensitive to this lav? Do we practice it? Do we understand it? Are we sensitive to it? Yes or no? And why?
Okay.
Listen, most of us like to feel like we're very frum. Won't you agree? If I come to you and I tell you, there's a big aveda that you transgress every day, you defend yourself. Defend how we live. Defend how we live based on the lav of the Chukesen. That's what I'm asking you to do. It's whatever answer you give is right.
Paltiel, can I ask you, straight, do you think it's an Issur D'Oraisa for someone to go to a comedy club?
Rabbi Tzukernik, it's for the Bachirim to answer. I'm not answering the question right now. I wonder what would happen if you asked a Rav. I suspect if you asked a modern Orthodox Rav, there'd be many of them who would give you heterim. I'd like to know what the heter is. I'd like to know why it's allowed. Because to me, this is a lav de'eraisa. But this is where your feel for Yiddishkeit really affects your definition of halacha. You understand? And I want to hear what the Bacham have to say. Whatever answer you give is right. I just want you to give me a thoughtful answer.
What can I do the thing so I can go find the last answer? Because I don't have it finished upstairs.
You mean number 2?
Yeah.
Go get it, man. Go get it.
I'm walking off screen for a few minutes. Don't mark me absent.
Okay.
You're absent.
Rabbi Paltiel, based off this, what is your opinion on Thanksgiving?
Yes, he's very absent.
100% a lav d'oraisa. Thanksgiving is something that American culture has evolved to.
That's a very good... Are you still there or did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
It's a fair question. I think Thanksgiving is Poshet HaMitzvah. Thanks, if Goyim make a mitzvah out of davening, does davening become Goyish?
If it's being evolved into Goyish culture, then maybe.
Really? If Goyim start keeping
First
Shabbos...
of all, when we say that Thanksgiving is a mitzvah, so to say, aren't you not limiting Thanksgiving to only one day of the year?
Okay, that's a different question. But you can't compare Thanksgiving to people spending hours every week, not only watching movies, but following actors and actresses and their life and their soap opera, and the same is true with athletes. That preoccupation...
Why are we limiting only to the negative parts of Goyish culture? If, according to the way that I understood you explain this, is that it's anything that has a Goyish kach. Thanksgiving has a Goyish kach.
Again, if Goyim start to daven, does it become Goyish? When Goyim do something good, is it Goyish? When Goyim do something wrong, and it becomes obsessive, so even if it's not an Aveda, because it's not allowed, because of the spirit of it, it's considered worse. But the Goyim who are thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, come on. Okay, Ramel, there's no point in asking again. Yeah, we're going in circles.